as we prepare to retire in only 31 working days, no one's counting, we thought it would be fun to, rather than writing a traditional piece to put in our newsletter, we thought it would be fun to have a conversation about our years together and some of the changes that we've seen in the field of information media over our long, long career, which all began in 1969 when small town girl met small town boy. When we both started college at what was then Gorham State College. It's now the University of Maine at Portland Gorham.
No, it's University of Southern Maine actually now.
University of Southern Maine.
Yeah, Portland Gorham was an intermediate name.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. And that is where we met, in an English class, and we won't tell you any more boring details about that.
No.
But I was instrumental in our career because
I'll give you that.
took a job, or I was offered a work-study job in the Audiovisual Center. So we started our careers in the world of audiovisual. And I was a work-study student. I was privileged to work with Dr. Alan Milbury, who is widely known in the state of Maine for being a leader, kind of a pioneer, if you will, in the field of, what was it called then? Instructional media, I think was the name that we used then. And I got to work in the media center under his direction. And I remember my first work-study job, I got a pay raise. Dr. Everett Davis, who was the co-director of the center, and now I see sort of a lecherous old man, but he was a young man then, called me into his office one afternoon and made a big show of phoning financial aid and saying because I did such fine work that he wanted my pay raised from $1.10 an hour to $1.20 an hour. So through my work-study connections, Merton got involved with...
Well, you recommended that I take a course, which was really 125 different ways to dry mount and laminate materials. So we did mechanical lettering and, as I said, dry mounting, crinkle lamination. And I also got interested in photography about that same time, and I purchased an SLR, single lens reflex camera, and I took from Everett Davis. I took 2 courses. One was the 125 ways to dry mount and laminate, and the other one was a basic photography course. And my roommate and I took both those classes, and there was a component that overlapped. We did the same topic in both classes. So the second time around, Everett said to us, well, why don't you guys, because it was a darkroom process, and it was something called high contrast photography. And he said, why don't the 2 of you work in the darkroom? He would work with the students in taking the photograph, and we worked with the students in the process because we had already done it a few weeks earlier. So that was great fun. So and so that really was kind of our introduction to
first
the field.
teaching experience in photography as well, in a
teaching
sense.
was pretty limited. It was put your hands in here and move us around.
Well,
Okay.
but that was the start of the journey.
Yes, and then I took a job teaching grade 7, and we won't talk about that a whole lot. We'll just move on to...
And that was in a very small town in Maine. But that was the start of our journey, which over this May we will have been married 44 years. So our journey has taken us nearly coast to coast. And we've done a little bit of international too. So, of course, our undergraduate work was at the University of Southern Maine. And then when we graduated, after that small town stint, the 1 year, we did work 2 summers at my old audiovisual center. We were such valued employees. They wanted us to come back in the summer, so that was nice. And then the second year we were married, we went to, got jobs at the University of Maine at Farmington in the audiovisual center again.
That was the Educational Media Center, I think.
Okay, could be.
Because one of the stories was that it was, the word media was in there because the director, Ralph Taylor, was asked one time why it was called the Educational Media Center when it was because it was in the middle of the building. So apparently there was some lack of understanding what media was all about in the early 70s, at least among some people. So we were there for 3 years. As I was the photographic specialist, Marcia became the graphic specialist. And so it was basically what was called a production position. We created instructional materials for faculty and students.
And mine was also, I did clerical work as well as part of that job. So I was a secretary, receptionist, kind of a jack of all trades.
And then, go ahead.
And then we got an opportunity, or we kind of got nudged to go to Utah State university and get our master's degrees. Dr. Alan Milbury, whom I mentioned before, was kind of he had definite ideas about what people should do, and he wasn't worried about telling them what they should do. So he really pushed us to go to graduate school.
And we met the head of the graduate program at Utah State, whose name was Don Smaley, and it's spelled, just for fun, S-M-E-L-L-I-E, but he pronounces it Smaley.
But it's a little embarrassing if you have to phone him and you're not sure what his name is.
Well, we worked with him one of those 2 summers after we graduated, and he started recruiting us, and so we ended up going to Utah State for our master's.
In 1976.
77.
Oh, it was 77.
Yep. We took a leave of absence from our jobs in Farmington. We packed up everything we had in a little trailer and our little Toyota Corolla, and camped our way west to Logan, Utah, and finished our master's in 11 months. Basically, that's what we did for 11 months. We took courses and we had assistantships, and that really was the full extent. We went skiing one weekend, as I recall.
And we also did get a chance to explore a few of the national parks in Utah. And then when we came home, we took a loop through California, and we got to have our first look at Yosemite, and we haven't been back, but we will. And we touched on other state or national parks
We get down to the Grand Canyon
as well. Grand Canyon, Yellowstone on the way home, but that might have been the year before.
That was the year before.
Okay, we don't need that.
Okay.
So we went back to the University of Maine at Farmington to our jobs after we'd gotten our master's degree.
We went back for 2 more years, and then I actually taught one class. I think it was actually before we went to Utah State. I actually taught one graduate class. As I said, our jobs were mainly in what was called production, but I did teach one. I taught a class in Super 8 film production. And then, so we went back for 2 years and decided that we really wanted to teach at the university level, and that said, go get a doctorate. So we had made connections with Denny Pett, who was a faculty member at Indiana University.
Which was at that time the mothership of all instructional media programs, educational media, information media, whatever you want to call it. But our degree was actually in instructional systems technology.
Instructional systems design.
Design.
ISD, yes. But yes, a lot of the techniques, a lot of these 125 ways to dry mount and laminate that I had learned in 73, a lot of those have been created at Indiana University. And so they had really, it was on the forefront of creating this essentially almost a brand new field.
It was a very production-oriented
Yes, it was.
Field. So we were there for 3 years. We went in 1980, and when we left in the January of
January of 84.
84. So we were actually there for longer than I thought.
No, 3.5 years.
3.5, okay. So we were there for 3.5 years, and we left. We had all of our coursework done. We had taken our qualifying exams, and all we had left was the dissertation. And we came as 2, and we left as 3 because our daughter Melissa was born there in July of 1983.
Yeah, so that was our first 6 months were kind of interesting, especially the month of December and January, because Melissa, I can't remember now exactly, but I think she did around 6,000 miles strapped in the back seat of our car, because we went from Indiana to Maine for Christmas because our families were there, back to Indiana, went to Wisconsin I think we may have gone up to look for a place to live, back to Indiana, and then moved to Indiana.
So we wonder why she still travels all the time. She got that early on.
But I took the job in UW Stevens Point. I was, as Marcia said, I actually had my proposal accepted. And a friend of mine who was we were GAs in the department, and a third GA sent to us, he said, "Hey Mert, there's a job in Wisconsin, it sounds like you." It had a lot of photography and some media production, and so I said, okay, I've done nothing about putting together a placement folder to apply for jobs. I figured I was at least 6 months away from really applying. I said, okay, here's the excuse, I'll apply. And I end up getting the job, which was kind of surprising to all of us. But so we were there we started there in January of '84. And we're there from '84 till '89.
5.5 years.
And our second
And then
daughter,
when we left UW Stevens Point, I did not. I stayed home with the girls primarily, one daughter. And then when we left Stevens Point, we came as 3. We left as 4. So our second daughter, Melanie, was born in UW Stevens Point. And that's how we came to be at St. Cloud State. 1989, Merton took a position, started teaching in the summer. The girls and I joined in September, and the rest is history.
Yeah, boring history.
We would like to, I think
Yeah.
we just, as we talked about this, found it interesting to think about the changes we've seen in technology over the time that we've been in the field.
From dry mount presses.
From dry mount presses to now,
Well,
smart devices.
Do you want to mention about our computer?
Our first computer, personal computer, was bought in 1982 so that we could work on our dissertations.
Yeah.
And
It was called an Osborne.
it was called an Osborne. It was basically a souped-up word processor.
Yeah. It was the first portable computer. It was advertised as that. It was about the size of a sewing machine.
And it had a 3.5-inch screen. It had two 5.25 floppy disk drives.
And that's when floppy drives were actually floppy drives.
And it had 64K of memory.
Yeah, phenomenal amount of memory. Yeah, 64K.
And so we bought that for about,
I think we paid around $1,000 for it.
I remember more like 2,500.
Okay,
But,
okay.
and then we sold it at a garage sale in somewhere in the mid to late 90s for $25.
But we got 2 dissertations out of it. So
We did.
It did its job, yes.
Right. And I did complete my dissertation while we were at UW Stevens Point, or while we were living there.
Yeah,
So.
I finished mine in '85. I was pressured by the department to, when I was hired, they said, you will finish your dissertation. Okay. So I started in January of '84. I defended in the spring of '85.
And I finished mine in '87. I had a daycare for a half day a week. That's how I cranked mine out. And I'm proud because I had no incentives to finish other than internal. And for both of us to have finished, I guess I'm boasting a little bit, but for both of us to have finished after we left the university is unusual, because the percentages of people who finish, who leave their place of study without finishing is relatively small. So I finished.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But some of the technologies, I've mentioned the dry mounting and laminating, but one of the other things that captured my attention, and I still think it's a great process, it just doesn't work anymore, it doesn't fit anymore, something called photo sketching. You took a black and white photograph, and you take India ink with a quill pen, and you trace on, or you draw directly on top of the photograph, and then you put the photograph into a solution of iodine, and the photographic image dissolves, so you're left with a line drawing of whatever it is. That's actually how we did our wedding invitations in 1973. We took a photograph of the church we were going to be married in. It was an old church in Marcia's hometown. And we took a photograph of it. I printed it, 11 by 14, sat down, I photo sketched it, dissolved the image off it, reduced it. We had some friends, this is while we were undergraduates, some friends of ours were in the industrial arts world, had access to a printing press, and so they printed our invitations, and I won't mention what we paid. We actually gave the guy a 6-pack and the paper. He printed our wedding invitations for us. That's what it cost us for the wedding invitation.
That was back when technology was simple. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could do the same thing today in about an eighth of the time digitally, but it's still a great process.
It was
fun at that time. We did such exotic things in our production classes as seal them and lifts, where we had to find clay-based paper photos, which are printed photos. Yeah. Laminate them, and then soak the paper backing off and clean it up, spray it with a spray to make it transparent, and then you had an overhead transparency.
If you remember what an overhead transparency was.
And Merton says he made lantern slides.
I had to make lantern slides. I think we both did. That was part of our master's program. A lantern slide is, I think, 3¼ inches. It's a kind of a precursor of a 2x2 slide. If anybody remembers what those are, photographic slides. It wasn't a photographic process. You actually bound something transparent inside 2 pieces of glass and bound it. And then there were special lantern slide projectors that were available. And that was part of our master's program. We had to do it.
Multi-image 3-screen presentations were becoming very in when we did our master's work, particularly.
Yeah, we did a fair amount of those.
Cut this down.
In Farmington. 3 slide projectors running simultaneously, 3 screens running. You could even put video in, it wasn't video, film into some of those. And so we put together, for example, a slideshow that introduced University of Maine Farmington to prospective students. And it was just 3 screens going on simultaneously. It was a big deal. We took a whole class in our master's.
Multi-image.
In multi-image. Okay, all right.
And we've also, you know, among all those other fun things, we've seen the growth of the internet, because when we started our careers, the internet was not available. It was available to government folks, but not to the general public.
Well, Al Gore hadn't gotten around to it then yet.
And we've had the opportunity to transition from ITV instruction to online instruction, synchronous and asynchronous.
Yeah, many, if not most of the night classes when I came here, the graduate classes were taught through ITV. Students went to a specific site, there was an ITV site, and that's how we interacted. I had several screens in the classroom, 4 or 5 screens, and one for each of the locations. And that's how we did our online instruction, starting in the, when I came here in '89 through the early '90s.
And of course, we also started when there was no email, and we were actually able to get work done at that time because we didn't have to worry about a lot of email. So that was when times were much simpler. And now we find ourselves at the point of having a smartphone with a high quality camera with 59 gigs of memory after we started with that little portable personal Osborne. So we feel like we have experienced many things, and because we've seen so many things, we are still, I'll speak for myself, I'm still amazed at some of the things that technology can do today. I still find it close to being magic. So, and then I guess to finish this up, talk about some of the highlights, just a few of the highlights that we've each had.
Yeah. As I said, I started in the department in 1989, and I worked with, I had some great people that I worked with as other faculty. Doreen Cable was department chair for most of the time, or actually she was called center director. Dennis Fields, Luther Rotto, Phyllis LaCroix, and then we had our office manager, Lucy Supin. She actually worked for the Center for Information Media right out of high school for 42 years before she retired. And she was all of them were fantastic to work with. But then one of the other highlights really was our chance to do the study abroad programs that we did. We did a total of 6. First one I went as a faculty member for 3 months to our castle in England that the university leases. We were there. We got there late November and through February.
And I was the official spouse. I wasn't working full-time at St. Cloud State, so the girls and I were along as family members, and it was really a wonderful experience because both of our daughters got to go into the British school system, and just like the citizens of Annick. So it was a great experience for them.
They were 3rd grade and 6th grade the first time we went. Then we went 3 years later, so they were 6th grade and 9th grade, and when we were there for 6 months, I directed the program. We were still in their quarters as a university then, so I was there for 2 quarters, so we stayed a full 6 months. So our older daughter's first 6 months of high school were actually in Annick High School rather than
the Duchess's High School,
Duchess High School in Annick, yes. Then we did starting in 2004, we did every other year we did short-term, what are called short-term study abroad programs, 2.5 week to 3 week programs. I did the first 2 with Chris Gordon of the English department. Then she retired, and then Marcia had joined the faculty, so go ahead.
So we did British literature and photography, British children's literature and photography. So that's definitely one of my high points in my career here at St. Cloud State, where I actually started adjunct in 1989, and I did not start working as a full-time tenure track faculty position until 2006. So I did a lot of some other things in between. Merton is the one with the continuous long career here. I was kind of in and out, and I was in public school as well. I guess just to summarize the other things, besides the British literature and photography, which definitely those were the high points for me because I got to be a faculty member in those. And I think introducing people who perhaps many who have not traveled often to another country, even though it speaks in some ways the same language as we do. It was still a unique experience. And one of my favorite parts was when we were all on the bus, when we brought the students into town. And if you've ever been to Anik, there's a beautiful kind of high point before you start to go down into a dip, and you can look across and see the castle, Anik Castle, of the first Harry Potter movie fame, and just getting to see students' expression when they see that for the first time. That was...
It was neat. And Anik Castle is also in parts that were used in the Downton Abbey series as well.
Mm-hmm. The Duke's Park.
The Duke's Park
and some of the inside.
Yeah. So it was neat to be there. Just a fun experience.
And then the other high points are working with students, graduate students, undergraduate students, graduate assistants. Those have all been great moments for us, or for me and you as well, I know. And then for me personally, baking those Friday treats. For almost my whole working career, no matter where I've been, I have baked a treat every Friday that I'm in residence, and I've probably contributed to a lot of health issues, but I've also had people tell me that they enjoy it. So, and I certainly enjoy baking. So, that's one of my high points.
Yeah. And one other one is just the fact that we've had a chance to work together through most of our married career. That we've actually worked together. We worked together in Farmington. We did our bachelor's degree. We did our master's degree. We did our doctorates together. And even here in St. Cloud, before Marcia has said, before she joined the faculty, she was adjunct. So we worked together then. So we worked together most of the 44 years we've been married.
Right, we're still together.
Amazing.
And now the transition. We have lots of things that we want to do. We'll miss the contact with students, and we'll miss the contact with faculty, just that interpersonal part, but all of the rest of the things I can certainly do without, the grading, the politics, all of that. Merton has a lot of things. Travel, we both want to do. Yeah. Travel's high on our list. We're going to Italy in June, and we're going to walk Hadrian's Wall with one of our British friends in September. And then next March, March of 2018, we'll take our family, our daughters and their significants, to Barcelona for a week. So we are looking forward to that.
And we've got some other trips that are
in the works.
Stages. Yes, there's lots of places we want to go. There's a neat snowmobile trip you can take in the wintertime across Yellowstone and stay in the B&Bs, and that sounds like a blast to me. And the other thing that I think we'll do, we've been in our house for 28 years, and we've redone all the rooms. Now it's time to redo them again. Mm-hmm. So I have probably a 10-year plan in terms of redoing that, because something needs to be done in every room. So that'll keep us occupied.
And I intend to start a photo a day blog, just for my own. I love photography as well. I'm not as technical and schooled in it as Merton. I'm much more informal in my approach to it. But I will take one photo that signifies each day to me, and I'll post that on a blog just for my own personal enjoyment. I also have a family cookbook project that if I can get my sister motivated, she's supposed to assist me with that. She's not as motivated as I am. I also plan to do a lot of quilting and baking and probably some eating of the baked goods.
I volunteer for the eating part.
And I would really also like to work on putting a sane person in the White House as soon as possible. So I intend to become more active. I already am. If you know me, I'm a political person, and I am fairly active, but I intend to really work for seeing that we get someone who is actually sane and cares about people in that position.
Okay. So we've enjoyed working almost every day. There's a few days that were not the greatest, but we have certainly enjoyed.
But you forget those days. You remember the good days.
St. Cloud's been good to us. It was a great place for us to raise our kids. They were 3 years old and 6 years old when we moved here. So they grew up in St. Cloud. They're now, one's in South Minneapolis and one's in Washington, D.C. right now. So it's been good. So have fun.